Now let's keep working on our well sections. Right. So in the previous video, we looked at some of the basic operations, how to display those well tops, how to actually configure the look and feel of this well section window by using three different settings toolboxes, settings dialog boxes. I mean, right? The window setting, it's like here, right? And the the I click on this context aware window tab, then I'm gonna see lots of those buttons, right? We looked at template settings, we looked at window settings, template settings, and then cross-section settings, right? All those three settings dialog box are located on the toolbar, located on the toolbar here. So we have the window settings, right? And we also have the cross-section settings, right? Which allows you to configure the hinges or wheels inside of this wheel section, and also allows you to configure the templates that's going to be applied to different wheels. And then most importantly, we have the template settings, right? Which allows us to configure how the logs are going to be displayed, right? So that was the primary focus in the previous videos. And we also looked at how to actually fill up the curves, right? The color fill can be kind of adjusted both in the template settings and also if you sort of do this accession setting, click on this button, you also have a button in the tool palettes. Oh no, it's not this one. It's right, this one with the toolbox, right? That's not so right. You can click on this button that allows you to edit the curve fill. Right? Allows you to edit the curve fill, and you can also adjust that by using this by using the cursor. Right? You can just drag the level left to right, right or to left to change the fill of the color, to change the fill of the curve. Right? So in this video, we're going to talk about how to create and edit wheel tops. And then if we have time, we'll talk about how to create and edit those faces, right? Those faces. So when you're working inside of this kind of wheel section window or dealing with the wheel locks, two primary tasks is just to sort of create and edit wheel tops and then come up with a log for the faces, right? So now let's try to work on the wheel tops. We have a wheel tops that's plan A, right? So we got a plan A here, right? And um, the first thing we're going to do is to actually copy plan A into another folder. So plan A was like the file that's provided to us. We don't want to really change the original sort of picking, change the original wheel tops that's provided to us. But let's make a copy of it. So we can just copy the whole wheel tops folder into another folder, say plan B. How do we actually make a copy of it? We have quick access. We have the button on the quick access bar. Click on copy or Control C, right? Control C. Either way is fine. Let's click on the copy. Right? And then as soon as we clicked on the copy, and then the paste item button is gonna light up, right? And then we can just paste it. Now we're gonna have a new folder that's called a copy of plan A, right? And then we can just change its name. Let's change it to like a plan B or something. We can just double click on it, double click on this, double click on the folder, and then in the info, let's change it to plan B. Right, that's gonna be the name for this copy. Right, let's okay, let's do okay. Then now we have plan B, right? So this particular cross section, cross section that we're working with has a C7, C5, and A15, right? Have 3 whales on it. Let's look at the other cross section. Maybe the other cross section is better looking, so we can. So the other section is C3, B9, and A16. It's also got like a 3 different whales, right? Which one might look better? Maybe let's use this cross section, right? This cross section might be more interesting to look at. So now we have both plan A and plan B. Let's close both plan A and plan B, right? And for now, plan B is more like a duplicate of plan A. So if I display plan B together with plan A, then they're going to be displayed in exactly the same way. Right? But you have more labels here. You have more labels here. Right? So you got like two top tarbert, two tarbert, two, that kind of thing. Right? Everything is like duplicated. Right? Suppose we turn off plan A. We want to do some editing on plan B, right? Let's turn off plan A. And now we can only see plan B on the cross sections. Right? And let's look at how do we actually make changes to the horizons, in plan B. I mean, right? So plan A is like turn off. So every operation that we're going to do is on plan B, right? If we don't like the stuff that we did on plan B, we can just delete it, right? If it didn't work out. So the first thing we're going to do is to actually again click on this X section editing that with the toolbox on it, right? So this is inside of the Windows context bar, right? So if you go to the stratigraphy tab, you have these 2 buttons, right? New welltops folder and edit welltops, right? So this new welltops folder is going to allow you to create a new welltops folder, right? But we didn't actually use this button because we mainly actually just copied the welltops in plan A into this new folder that's plan B, right? But if you want to sort of come up with a completely new welltops folder with nothing in it, you can just use this button to create a new welltops folder and then edit welltops, right? You got a toolbox on the icon, which means that if you click on it, it's going to give you a bunch of buttons. In fact, this tool palette is actually identical to the one if you actually go to the Windows. If you go to the Windows context menu, and then click on X section editing, also with the toolbox on it, right? It's actually the same. It's actually the same tool palette, right? But now, because you are editing cross sections, so because you are editing welltops, so the cross section buttons are kind of grayed out, and then the curve filling is also active, right? But you have now we are actually looking at this particular button, right? It's called Edit Welltops. If you move your cursor over there, right, you can click on this Edit Welltops button to make sure that it's active. It's active. And now, if you actually move your cursor, to one of those welltops, again, make sure that plan B is active. Right? Plan A is like turned off, right? And then your cursor is going to change shape, right? It's going to change to this kind of a new shape, right? And you have to make sure that the cursor is inside of a log track. It's not in the index track. In the index track, looks like it's also going to work now. But if you sort of move your cursor out of any of those tracks, it's not going to allow you to change the welltops, right? So if you move your cursor to between 2 wheels, then your cursor is not going to change shape, right? It's only inside of a track, and then you can just drag. You can, for example, drag it. Suppose I move top eve to like a different depth here, right? I move it to here. Of course, this is just a demonstration. It doesn't really mean has any kind of a geological meaning. I'm just trying to demonstrate that it's possible to actually change an existing wheel top to a different depth inside different wheels, right? And there's another button that allows you to actually look at the depth of each of the wheel tops in a spreadsheet. And you can get to that spreadsheet either by right-click on the wheel tops folder, which is going to give you an option that's called spreadsheet, right? Or you can actually go to the strategic field menu ribbon, and it's going to give you an item that's called a wheel tops spreadsheet, right? Let's click on it, and then it's going to give you a spreadsheet. It tells you it's a wheel top spreadsheet for plan B, right? And then it's going to list this particular wheel top on every wheel, basically, on every wheel. Right? So starting from like A1 to like C7. So suppose we want to just look at the C3, B9, and A16, right? We can select, we can filter it. Click on this filter. And then it's going to allow you to filter the view by selecting different wheels. So suppose we want to select C3, right? C3. And then B9, and then A16, right? And I have a, let's just close it. So as soon as you click on the use checkbox, so you can sort of see the spreadsheet window is only displaying the three wheels that we are actually looking at right now: C3, B9, and A16, right? So by clicking on this use checkbox, it's gonna do the filtering, right, based upon the wheels. So suppose you want to filter the data based upon the surface, right? You can just pick the surface here and then check use, right? Let's close this thing. Right, that's the wheel tops spreadsheet. Right, that's the wheel tops spreadsheet. We have changed the top eve. Right, we have changed the depth of the horizon top eve in C3 and also in every other wheels. Right, now let's so if I actually change the depth of top eve inside of a wheel log, you can see that the numbers are going to change. Actually, the numbers in the spreadsheet are going to change, right? For now, it's minus 2206.53, right? Suppose I change it. Now you can sort of see it's at a different depth, right? 2194.70, that kind of thing, right? 2174, right? That's inside of the C3. Suppose I change this particular wheel top eve inside of B9, then you should be able to see the changes in the spreadsheet also, right? And as I drag the top eve horizon up and down, you will see that not just the vertical depth is changing, right? And also X and Y are also changing because the wheel is not vertical, right? And that's how you can actually change existing horizons, right? Existing horizons that's already in your wheel tops, right? Now let's put the plane A also on it, right? And then we can sort of see the difference, right? So top eve are going to have a different depth for different planes, right? Plane A is like the top one, and then plane B has been changed to a different depth, right? That kind of thing. But for now, both planes are kind of displayed in the same kind of a color scheme, and it's not sort of so easy to actually distinguish them on this kind of a view. So you may want to display different planes using different kind of color schemes. Right. If you still remember the template settings window that we looked at in the previous video, it actually provides you the options for configuring the display of boho markers, right? We got plane A and plane B. So if you look at the plane A and then symbols and labels, line show line as horizon. See, right? The color is as horizon. Right? Interval is show lines, that kind of thing, right? And if you look at plane B, it's sort of identical, symbols and labels, right? It's kind of identical to the one used in plane A. So let's change it. Let's change it. So line for lines, let's change the color from as horizon to, let's say, just black, right? And then interval show line as horizon, let's change it to black, right? And then symbol show as horizon, let's also change it to black, right? Label black. So now if we click on apply, then the settings, then the color that's kind of associated with plan B are going to be displayed in black, right? And plan A still has its own original color that we didn't actually change, right? So that's going to be easier for us to actually compare the horizons or compare the whale tops picked in different planes, right? And let's still go back to turn off plan A, right? So for all the whale tops picked in plan B are going to be in black, right? And you can see how this thing, how the template setting allows you actually configure the look of a particular plane, whale top plane, right? And that's how do you actually display multiple whale top planes, right? So now so we now have looked at how to edit whale tops, right? Now let's look at how do we add whale tops. How can we actually add new horizons or something to the to the to plan B, for example, right? So if we're trying to sort of change plan B or add a new horizon to plan B, we have to make sure that plan A is not activated. And at this point, again, we have to sort of click on this edit whale tops button, make sure that this button is activated, right? And this tool palette is still the old tool palette that we have been using, right? So when this tool palette is actually active, you can sort of see edit whale tops. This button is active, right? This is under the stratigraphy ribbon. If you go to the windows, if you go to the window whale section ribbon, you're gonna see X section editing. This button is activated. So edit whale tops, right? And then on the right side of the tool palette, you're gonna see this particular dialog box, basically. This dialog box allows you to actually specify the type of the whale top that you're going to create, for example, right? So if you move your cursor here, it shows add new whale top horizon. And then if you move your cursor over here, add new whale top fold. And then here, add new whale top other, right? So these three buttons actually correspond to stratigraphy, right? And then folds, and then others, right? And depending upon which button you are going to activate, the new horizons or the new wheel tops are going to be grouped into those corresponding folders. So let's try to add a new wheel top horizon. Right. Let's click on this thing. Right. And now let's move our cursor into the this particular window. Right. Let's just click on it. Right. So as soon as I clicked on one of the wheels, C3 for example, I'm going to see horizon 1 that's being added to stratigraphy underneath plan B. Right. And then if I click on B9, right, then that's horizon 1, still horizon 1. And then click on this thing, horizon 1, right? Right. And now if I actually drag one of those horizons that I just added, right? Then I am actually editing this particular existing horizon that I have just created, right? If I want to create one more horizon, click on this button again, right? As soon as I click on this button, this horizon one becomes deactivated, right? So the phase has changed from the bold phase to this kind of normal phase, right? And this point, if I want to sort of add more horizon two, right? As soon as I click on one of those wheels, then it's going to create a new horizon and make that horizon, newly created horizon, active, right? It's showing the bold phase here, right? If I keep clicking, then it's going to add to horizon two, right? So suppose on the last wheel, A16, I move my cursor above horizon one and pick horizon two now. Now it's going to give us this dialog box, this kind of a warning box. According to the stratigraphy, the wheel top cannot be set here. Continue anyway. Note, to avoid this warning, turn off restricted wheel tops in the toolbar. So what this warning box is actually telling us is that if you sort of follow the rules of stratigraphy or follow the rules of geology, so horizon two is underneath horizon one here, right? Horizon two is also underneath horizon one here, right? So if you actually try to put horizon two on top of horizon one, above horizon one, on A16 wheel, then it's going to violate the rules of geology, right? So then it's going to tell you it's not going to work, right? It's a violating the rules of stratigraphy. It's giving you this kind of warning, right? And it asks us if we want to go ahead anyway, right? Let's say no, we don't want to do that, right? Let's click underneath horizon one to create a horizon two, right? So the restricted by stratigraphy checkbox by default it's actually checked, right? So if you don't want to sort of follow the rules of stratigraphy, you can uncheck it, and then if you uncheck it, then you can pick horizon two anywhere, right? Suppose I want to move horizon two above horizon one, right? Then that's not a problem. That's not a problem. It's not going to give you any kind of warning message, right? Still move it back. Right? But if I actually check this restricted by stratigraphy, and then if I try to move horizon two above horizon one, then it's not going to be possible, right? So now horizon one and horizon two are kind of merged together. It doesn't allow you to actually move horizon two above horizon one. See? And of course, you can sort of do editing in the wheel top spreadsheet. So let's click on stratigraphy and then click on wheel top spreadsheet, right? So C3, right? C3. On C3 we have horizon one and horizon two. That's at the same depth. So let's filter it. Let's just turn off A6. Oh no, not the C3. It's A16. We have to sort of turn on A16, but turn off B9 and the C3, right? So horizon two seems to be wrong on C3, right? Let's delete horizon two on C3. Just on the not C3, A16, right? Let's just delete horizon two on that particular wheel, right? So now let's click on horizon two for A16, right? And then all we have to do is to click this button, delete selected row in the table. And then if we click on apply, then horizon two has disappeared on A16, right? And suppose we would like to add horizon two on A16 again, right? We can just now make sure that this button is still activated and horizon two is still in both phases. It's still activated. And then we can just click on the correct location for horizon 2 on A16, right? And then horizon 2 is added again. Right? That's for deleting just one horizon on one wheel, right? But if you want to delete the entire horizon on all wheels, that's going to be a lot easier to do. You just right click on the horizon. Right? And then you have an option for delete. You can just delete everything. Are you sure you want to delete the item horizon 2? Yes. And then horizon 2 has disappeared. All we have is horizon 1. Right? And that's adding a horizon. That's adding a horizon. Right? But sometimes some of the wheel tops are actually associated with not horizon, but with faults. If that's the case, you have to sort of click on this button, the second one. Add new wheel top fault. Click on it. Click on it. Right. For now, the faults subfolder underneath plan B is empty. There's nothing in it. Right. But now let's pick some faults. Right. Let's just put our faults somewhere. Right. Fault 1, fault 1, fault 1. Right. So that gives us a fault. That gives a fault. And you can sort of look at the symbol of the line. It's kind of different from the horizon symbol, right? The line style, I mean, not the symbol, line style. And now if you look into the folders, the faults folder, you're going to have fault 1 here. Right? That's the folder that you just created. Of course, you can also edit the depth of the fault. Right? You can drag it up and down, right? And it's not sort of restricted by the rules of stratigraphy. You can, because it's a fault, you can just do whatever you want, right? You can drag it anywhere. Right? And if you want to create another fault, just click on this thing again, click on this button again, right? And then start picking. Start picking. That's fault 2, right? That's fault 2. So now you got a second fault, right? The same is true for other. If you want to sort of create some wheel tops that do not belong to horizon or faults, then you can use other, right? And don't forget you have redo and undo buttons. So if you don't like the location that you just picked, you can also undo, right? And then the last pick is going to disappear, which is going to allow you to actually repick, right? Suppose I want to pick it to like here, right? Then fault 2 is going to go there. Right? And then you also have redo, undo, right? So it's not, it's actually quite flexible. It's actually quite flexible. When you're doing this kind of picking for different wheel locks, sometimes you might want to restrict the kind of depth interval you are actually looking at, right? Some of the wheel locks might be a lot longer than some other wheel locks, right? If you want to sort of restrict the depth range of the display of the logs, for example, B9 here is like way longer, a lot longer than the other two wheels, I think, right? It's a lot longer. Yeah, it's a lot longer, right? So when you are picking those wheel tops or trying to adjust those wheel tops, sometimes you may want to just restrict your view to a particular depth range, right? If that's what you want to do, you can go to the wheels. You can go to the wheels folder. Let's collapse plan B for now. Let's go to the wheels folder, right? And then you have something that's called a wheel filter. Wheel filters, right? And it's actually a folder. It's actually a folder. And for now, wheel filters folder has nothing in it. It's empty. Right? You can try to right click on it and then create a new wheel filter. Right? New wheel filter. Now it's gonna allow you to actually set up the filter. So how the filter is gonna look like, right? To do some settings. Right. So in the style tab, you have a filter range, right? Let's select all. If you click on all, then all the wheels are going to be selected, right? And then traces, logs, drawing simplification. So this pen allows you to select different wheels to apply this particular filter, right? And then this part of the dialog box allows you to specify the depth range for displaying the logs, right? So let's click on both of them, top Z and base Z. If you just specify a constant, then the depth range is going to be fixed by the depth track, SSTVD for now, right? If you just specify a constant range, a constant value, right? But now let's sort of select from subject for both of them, from subject, right? And at this point, we can actually pick some wheel tops and point them into this box, right? What might be let's go to plane A. Right, let's go to plane A, and then select base Cretaceous, and then point it into this box. And then top Eve, select it, and then point it into this box. And then if we do just apply, if we just apply, then it's just going to create this particular filter. Right, so now in the wheel filters folder, you have something, right? It's not empty folder anymore. You have a wheel filter now, right? And if you actually pay attention to the color of those checkboxes in front of those filters, you're going to see that it's not a gray checkbox. It's actually a yellow checkbox, right? So this is something that's kind of different from the kind of gray checkbox we are used to when we try to display sort of objects inside of a graphic window. Those wheel filters, those kind of filters are not exactly the object that can be displayed in a graphic window. It's something that controls or filters the display, right? If you want to apply this particular filter, you can just check it, right? If you apply the click on the checkbox, then it's gonna sort of do the clipping for you. So all the wheels are being displayed from base Cretaceous to top Eve, right? But it looks like it has been clipped to exactly the depth of top Eve. So top Eve, you can't even see top Eve anymore, right? So let's go back to wheel filter and change the setting, right? So in addition to the two wheel tops, you also have a number box behind it, right? So this number box allows you to actually extend the range by some fixed number. Suppose let's say give like 20 meters, right? So if I put 20 here, then it's gonna extend above base Cretaceous by 20 meters. Let's also give 20 meters here. So it's gonna extend below top Eve by like 20 meters. Apply again. So now we see a certain range of extension, right? It's not cut exactly at that particular wheel top, but it also shows some slight extension, right? Maybe it changes like 50. Right. The reason that you don't see top Eve here is because the wheel top's plane that we are displaying is not really plane A, right? It's plane B. You can see the color. It's black, right? Plane A doesn't have those folds, right? Fold 1, fold 2, it doesn't have the folds. Only plane B actually has the folds. So the wheel tops that's being displayed here is actually plane B, right? So if you want to turn off plane B, where's plane B? Right, if you want to turn off plane B and turn on plane A again, right? Then you can see it's actually top Eve, right? Top Eve here, top Eve. Those wheel tops that we are displaying may have different kinds of types. Some of them might be conformal, and some of them might be non-conformal, right? For example, the base Cretaceous. If you sort of take a look at the base Cretaceous, at some locations, it's actually merging together with the layer that's with the horizon that's below it, top starboard. right? For example, on B9, base Cretaceous and top Tarbert are kind of merged into like a one line. The same is true for A16, right? You can't even see top Tarbert. Right? The reason that this happens is because for the location B9 and A16, base Cretaceous is actually an erosional interface, is an erosional horizon, right? So at the locations of those two whales, base Cretaceous is actually eroding into top Tarbert, right? So that's why you don't see a separate line for top Tarbert, right? And for this kind of a situation, you may want to use a different line style for different horizons. So if that's the case, we can right click on base Cretaceous, right? And then go to setting. Stratigraphy. Oh no, it's right, it's in the settings. It's in the settings tab, right? So surface type is horizon. That doesn't allow you to change, but horizon type, for now it's conformable, right? But it doesn't have to be conformable. If you click, you have erosional, base, and discontinuous. All of them actually has very specific geological meanings. And the diagram or the icon that's showing in front of it actually indicates what this kind of a horizon type actually means. So let's select the erosional, and then let's apply. So it's telling you that this change of horizon type will remove some multiple whale tops of this horizon. Do you really want to set this new horizon? Okay. Right. Right. So now you see that the line style has changed. Right? Instead of a straight line, you are seeing this kind of curved line, this kind of curly line. Right. So I just changed the vertical scale to allow us to see more of the section. Maybe 1000 is like too small. Let's change it to like 1500. Right. So maybe that's a slightly more comfortable display. Right? 200. Right. So that's pretty much everything that we may want to do about whale tops, right? And then I mentioned at the beginning of this video that we may have two tasks inside of this particular whale section window. One is to sort of pick whale tops and edit whale tops, right? And the other task is sort of create facies, right? To create a facies log, basically, right? So how can we actually create the facies log? For now, we do have a facies log. It's called a fluvial facies, right? Let's turn off net gross for now. Turn off net gross, and then click on fluvial facies. Let's display the fluvial facies, and now we can see the facies, right? The fluvial facies. And maybe let's turn off the whale tops for now, and which allows us to look at the faces. Maybe fit to width, fit to height, right? So that's the facies log that we imported when we imported the last whale log file, right? You can sort of see that this imported facies data don't really make sense, right? So if you look at this part, right, you have a large gamma ray and a small porosity, which is usually an indication about shale. But this log is actually telling you it's sand. Right? Maybe that's true, but usually that's not the case. Right? And then for locations, again, some strong discrepancies here, right? Right. So in principle, this part is more likely to be shale, but it's telling you it's sand. Right. And then again, this part is telling you it's sand. Right. But this part might be sand, but it's telling you it's shale. So this log was created, or was not created by us. It's actually imported from the last files, which might be provided by the logging company, right? And the reason that you have this kind of discrepancy is because when we actually imported this face log, we didn't actually select the right template. Right? The template that's kind of automatically provided by Petrel is called facies. It's not called fluvial facies. Even though the name of the log that's inside of the last file, the column name was called fluvial facies. But Petrel actually applied a template that's called facies to those data. Right? Suppose you right click on it and then click on settings, right? And underneath the info tab, you're going to be able to see that the template that's being applied to this particular log is called facies. And then it's got a color table, right? It's got a color table. So it looks like yellow means sand, right? But if we actually choose a different template, suppose let's click on it. And then we have fluvial facies right underneath it, right? This template did not exist when we actually imported the last files, right? In that import dialog box, we didn't actually have this particular option. That's called fluvial facies. But now we have this. But inside of the info tab of the settings dialog box, we have fluvial facies now, right? And then we can pick a different color table. Let's select more, right? And fluvial. See, we have a color table for fluvial. Right? And then let's click on OK. And then let's apply. Okay. So now it looks like it's kind of more consistent. So this is the background of floodplain. Right? Background of floodplain. So white means background of floodplain. And then you have levee sand. Right? So different color actually has a quite different meaning now. So it looks like background floodplain always corresponds to shale-like structure. Right? Shale-like layers, the white. Right? That might look more reasonable as in realistic situations, right? So now this track is porosity and gamma, and then this track is permeability, and then this track is fluvial facies, right? So maybe this might not be a very good display. Let's move the perm to the leftmost track, and then let's move the porosity gamma track next to the fluvial facies track, right? How do we actually adjust this kind of settings, right? It's actually in the template settings, right? So in the template settings, we now have this many tracks. So what we want to do is actually to move the perm track above the gamma porosity track. So all we have to do is to click on this button. Right now, perm is above gamma porosity, and then let's just apply. Right. So now perm is like the first track, or no, the second track after the depth track, and then you have porosity and gamma, and then that's right next to the fluvial facies, right? But now let's try to create another facies track. So those fluvial facies are not exactly the same as telling you if it's sand or if it's shale or if it's silt or something. but it's not really telling you that. It's telling you it's a background floodplain or levee sand or some other kind of depositional environment, right? But now let's try to create another facies track that's going to tell us which part is sand and which part is shell, right? So how are we going to do that? How are we going to do that? The first thing we're going to do is to actually look at the templates tab, right? Let's click on the templates tab. Let me just make this one bigger. So what we are going to do is to first create a template for displaying that facies log that we will try to create. Right, let's click on the templates tab. And underneath the templates tab, we got lots of different kinds of templates, right? Let me collapse this folder. Let me collapse this folder. So some of them, the first folder is called color tables, right? And then you have depth, thickness template, seismic template, geophysical template, petrophysical templates, fault property, volume template, well log templates, 2D log templates, discrete well log templates. That's what we want, because the facies template, the facies log that we'll try to create from those existing logs is some kind of a discrete well log template, right? Let's click on it. No, that's not the one. It's kind of confusing. You have discrete property templates, right? Right, that's the right one, right? So it's a discrete property templates. And inside the discrete property templates, you will be able to find the templates that was originally used for displaying the fluvial facies that we imported from the last log file, right? You also have a fluvial facies template, which has already been applied to our to the fluvial facies log we imported from the last file, right? But now let's try to create a facies template. But we don't want to change the existing facies template that's already included by Petrel. Let's try to make a copy of it. Right? To make a copy is relatively simple. All you have to do is to go to the quick access toolbar, click on copy or Control-C. And then as soon as you click on copy, the paste button is going to light up, and then you do a paste. Then now you have a new discrete property template that's called a copy of facies. And let's change the name. Let's change it to my facies, right? My facies. And legend label also change it to like my facies, right? My facies. And then type is discrete template user defined default. And then you have user icon, right? So what kind of icon it's going to use, right? Facies seems to be a quite a reasonable icon. This particular icon looks like reasonable, right? Because we're looking at the lithology of it. It's not really. We don't need to change it. But the color table is indeed something that we may want to change, right? So usually those color bars, yellow, brown, this kind of yellow bars is associated with numbers, basically. It's actually associated with numbers. So here, yellow usually means 0. It corresponds to 0, right? But on our actual fluvial facies log, 0 corresponds to the color white, and it's actually background floodplain. And you can sort of see that 0 for background floodplain actually corresponds to shell, right? It's so, but here it's shell, but here it's actually sand. So there's a discrepancy. You see. So it's not a suitable color table for us, right? You may want to sort of switch to a different kind of color table. If you click on more, it's going to allow you to actually select different kinds of color tables, right? But let's try to create a new color table by ourselves, so we can actually specify the exact display of those different kinds of rocks, right? So now let's go to the color tables. Let's collapse this folder first. Right. Let's go to the color tables. Right. And inside of the color tables, you're going to see subfolders, right? What we want to do is that to actually go to the discrete color tables, right? So here you have some existing facies color table, which might be suitable, but may not be, right? May not be. And if you want to create your own color table, it's kind of quite easy. All you have to do is to right-click on the folder, right? And then insert new discrete color table. And then it's going to create a new color table. That's called untitled one, right? Let's change its name. Double click on it. Right. And then in the info tab, let's just change untitled one to my colors. And then the name is changed to my colors. And then if you click on the colors tab, you're going to be able to actually specify what's going to be the colors that you want. The values we want to do is to actually have just the 4 different values, 0, 1, 2, and 3, right? So 0, 1, 2, and 3. So 4 and 5 are kind of useless. So let's just delete them. Click on this button to delete them, right? So 0, 1, 2, and 3. And for 0, we want to sort of specify the name as clay. Right. So for clay, the background color, usually it's dark color, maybe using some kind of a dark gray. Lines, maybe we don't have to change the lines, but pattern, for clay, usually people use this kind of horizontal lines, right? Horizontal dash lines. And then for one, let's specify it as sand. And for sand, usually people use bright yellow. And then the pattern usually are sort of dots, I think. Right. Let me use this kind of coarse dots. And then for the code 2, number 2, silt, right? And then background color, let's use some kind of orange, right? Or brown, right? So, and then let's use a finer dot, slightly finer dot. And then for the third, let's specify it as fine silt. Right. And for this one, we're gonna choose some kind of orange, right? And then let's use even finer dots, right? And then that's gonna be a new color table that's created by ourselves, and each of the different types of rocks correspond to different codes, right? Clay corresponds to 0, and then sand corresponds to 1, silt 2, and then fine silt 3, right? And now let's just click on OK. So now we have a new color table. That's my colors inside of the color table, discrete color tables, right? And once we have that color table, we can apply this particular color table to our own faces template, right? So default color table, let's choose more. And then here we should be able to actually find the color table that we just created. That's called my colors, right? And then we just click on OK, right? And at this point, we can just click on OK to create the template. Let's collapse the color tables folder and then look into the discrete property template. Now we have my faces, right? And the icon in front of my faces is kind of identical to the faces icon, the icon in front of the faces, right? The reason is because use icon is set to faces here. So that's why we have this one. And now let's go back to the input pane. Let's go back to the input pane, right? And now let's try to create our faces log, and it's going to be computed from Porosity. We're going to show different ways for creating this faces log, right? And the first way we're going to do is to sort of right-click on global well logs, right? And then we select calculator. Select calculator. Now it's giving us a calculator dialog box, and it's a quite complicated dialog box, and it's very easy to actually it's very easy to use, but it's also quite easy to actually make mistakes actually. So now let's try to create a well log by using Porosity as our input log, right? And let's call the new output faces log as faces cutoff, right? So in this particular empty box, we can type in our equation. But the only thing that we want to type is actually the name of the output log. Let's call it faces cutoff, right? And then afterwards, all you have to do, all you need to do is actually to click on those buttons. So don't use your keyboard anymore. If you keep using your keyboard, you may make mistakes, right? But by clicking on this particular on the buttons on this particular pane, it minimizes the possibility for making mistakes. Right. So our formula is going to look like that. So faces underscore cutoff is going to equal to, click on equal here, right? Then you're going to get an equal sign. Don't use the equal on your keyboard. If you use the equal on your keyboard, there are higher chances for making mistakes, for having trouble, right? For getting into trouble, right? And then our formula is going to look like this. So if the porosity is smaller than 0.13, then we're going to say it's clay, and we're going to assign the code 0 to it, right? And in that template or in that color table that we just created, 0 means clay, right? So if porosity, so we need a if. We have if button here. So as soon as you click on the if button, you're going to see this kind of structure here. It's giving you if and then 3 empty spaces separated by 2 dots, right? So for the first empty space, we're going to specify our condition, which is a porosity smaller than 0.13. So porosity, you don't want to type porosity on your keyboard. You want to select porosity from the log. So if you click on porosity here, then it's going to display porosity, right? Again, don't use your keyboard. Just pick porosity from the well log variable here, right? So if porosity is smaller than 0.13, smaller than, don't use your keyboard, but use this button here, smaller than. And then 0.13, don't use your keyboard, use the number button here, 0.13, right? If this condition is true, then the output faces underscore cutoff is going to be 0. But where do you actually put the 0? You put the 0 after the first dot that was created by clicking the if button here, right? When we click the if button, it's creating 2 dots, right? We put the condition for, we put the result for this condition when this condition is true on the behind the first dot, which is 0. Again, by clicking on this number button instead of clicking on the typing on your keyboard, right? So if porosity is smaller than 0.13, this condition is evaluated to true, then the output is going to be 0. Right? But what if porosity is larger than or equal to 0.13? Right? What's going to be the value when porosity is when porosity is smaller than 0.13 is evaluated to false, right? When this conditional becomes false, which means porosity is larger than or equal to 0.13, right? And then we cannot use this 0 anymore. So the value that's going to be taken is going to be after the second dot. It's going to be the value that's after the second dot, right? And then what's going to be the value after the second dot? So when porosity is larger than or equal to 0.13, we still have to sort of decide what's going to be the rock type based upon the porosity, right? When porosity is larger than 0.13 but smaller than 0.2, then we're going to say the output code is going to be 2, right? 2 means 0, right? 2 means 0, right? And then if porosity is larger than or equal to 0.2, then we're going to say it's sand, and sand has a code of 1, right? So what's going to be the expression after the second dot, right? The expression after the second dot is going to be another if. It's going to be another if, and the conditional is comparing porosity with 0.2, right? Again, don't type porosity on your keyboard. Click on porosity in the logo panel, this and then smaller than 0.2, right? That's the conditional. And if this conditional evaluates to true, which means that porosity is larger than or equal to 0.13 but smaller than 0.2, if that's the case, we're going to say it's a silt, right? So in that case, the code is 2, right? But if porosity is larger than or equal to 0.2, then we're going to say it's sand. So we move our cursor to behind the second dot, right? Sand has a code of 1, right? So our expression is done now. That's the expression for creating faces cutoff, right? But we also need to specify the template here, right? Attach new to template my faces. Do I have my faces? Yeah, eventually I got to my faces here. That was the one we just created. And then sample MD, that's measured depth from log. Let's just sample the measured depth from an existing log. But we don't want to use the fluvial faces because the expression uses the porosity, right? Let's just change it to porosity. And at this point, we can just click on enter. So it's telling us the log doesn't exist in well B1. Yeah, that's true, right? For B1, we don't even have any logs. So let's click on OK. Error for well B1 continue, OK for all. Right. And at this point, we're going to see this particular well log that has been created, right? It's called a faces cutoff. That was exactly the expression that we typed at the beginning of the very long if sentence, right? And then we can just look at it. Let's click on faces cutoff. All right. And now we can sort of see this faces log, right? And it looks like it's got a quite good correspondence with our fluvial faces, right? So background floodplain corresponds to clay, right? And those levee sand correspond to silt, right? And then you also have channel sand, I think, right? Channel sand should be more or less like sand, I think, right? So that's how you can actually use this kind of calculator to compute the facies log from an existing curve log, for example, porosity, right? And then in the next video, we're going to look at two other ways for creating this kind of facies log, right? We're going to look at how to actually paint the facies log by hand, right? And then we're going to look at how to create a facies log by using the so-called neural networks, if we have time for doing that.